Hey guys, Adam Rose, Vice President and Senior Loan Officer of Western Ohio Mortgage here in Sidney, Ohio. This is another episode of the Mortgage Guy podcast, and this week we get to know Chad Perk, a loan officer of Western Ohio Mortgage. Thank you for finally coming on and taking the time to do it. I appreciate it.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. So we've been talking about it for a while. We just happened to pull the triggers. We're doing some other videos today for the company, our 25th anniversary, and we figured why not, right?
Absolutely.
So Chad, little background on yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I live in small town, DeGraff, 5 minutes away from you and Teresa.
Yep.
My neighbors. Graduated from Riverside High School, went to college in Columbus, CSEC. Went out of there, got into lending. Been in lending for probably 24 years. A little bit about myself. My wife owns a hair salon in DeGraff.
Yep. Shout out.
Village Chameleon. Give her a call, line something up. 2 daughters. Oldest daughter's 20. Youngest daughter's 16. Both went, youngest daughter, every sport. Spend all my time at ball games.
Right. And you umpire too.
Yes, I do.
So that's the guy. That's the guy you get to yell at. No. Be nice.
I've made a lot of good friends at these ball games, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, you can make a lot of good connections on it.
Yeah,
I mean, I coach summer ball, and you've been umpiring. How long have you been umpiring for?
6 years.
Whew, okay.
Do a lot of high school ball, travel ball. That's about the extent of it for me.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that.
That's all right.
Spend a lot of time in the woods, on the water, everything.
Yeah. You like hunting?
Yeah. Country living at its finest.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is we actually own some land. Literally, it might be not even a half mile from your house that we might be building at. So I'll be walking to your house if we ever build. But all right, so how long you been in the industry? 24, you said?
24 years.
All right, and you've been in a couple banks, and have you ever been with an independent mortgage banker? I don't think I've ever asked that question.
This is the first time.
Right. How's it going?
Great move. Honestly, I love it because I've worked in corporate banking, just banking all the way across the board. Mm-hmm. And it's more hands-on here because I touch it, a processor touches it, underwriter touches. I always have access to the file.
Right.
Versus other places, went through 4 or 5 sets of hands, more chance for mistakes.
Right.
And so
you have some control over it.
Yes. Smooth process here. Processing's awesome. Underwriting, in-house underwriting.
Yep.
A lot of other lenders use contract underwriting where say for instance, someone turns in a file, it's contract underwriter, might be with companies like MGIC. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with them, guys.
No,
we're not saying there's anything wrong with them, but you lose the control factor.
Exactly. So say for instance, like last Thursday, I had one condition to clear on a file. So all I needed to do was pick up the phone and call Sidney. It was cleared. Yep. Versus, contract underwriter, that might be, 24 to 48 business hours before they get to it.
Right.
And what I do, closes at 4 o'clock the same day.
Yeah.
Agent loved it. Buyer loved it. Win-win for everyone.
Right. Exactly. So, and the funny thing is, and you always use this saying is, if you can't close loans here, you probably shouldn't be in the business.
Exactly. It's time. It's time to retire.
Yeah, it's time to get out. It's time to be done. So one thing I wanted to talk about, and then guys, just to let you know, stay for the end of the video because we had some TikTok comments on some prior videos, and then they wanted to touch up on savings patterns. So I'm going to touch on that here in just shortly. But Chad, I wanted to get your thoughts and opinion on the economic environment currently in relation to borrower objections. Like borrowers are like, well, rates are too high, or hey, the payments are too high, or hey, the prices are nuts, or what have you, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think buyers really need to know and hear to make the leap?
A lot of the buyers I work with, like you brought up, Adam, rates. Mm-hmm. But on on the flip side, what are rent prices right now?
Crazy.
2-bedroom, 1 bath, $1,200 a month.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And the idea behind it is, say for instance, you have a buyer, FHA, all right, 3.5% down, or you can qualify for OFA down payment assistance. People need to think long term about it. I can't. If I could predict what rates are going to do, you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be sitting on the beach with my feet up on a chair.
Correct.
So nonetheless, the opportunities are there. Say for instance, whatever. Let's just say 7%. Inflation comes down, rates go down. You refinance it, streamline it to a 5% rate if it's FHA. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
So essentially, you get into a price of a home right now. Who knows what it's going to be in the future? Caveat to it is they might go up
Right.
That seems it's a crazy market right now. Seller's market.
Well, and I was talking earlier about first-time home buyers, and they're kind of my favorite segment because they're just now learning about it, and they're a little bit more excited about the process and stuff like that. But there's a lot of misconceptions out there because, like you mentioned, FHA, down payment assistance, whatever might fit the need for the client.
Right.
Is everybody thinks that, hey, I got to have 20% down, or hey, I need to have $15,000, or whatever the case may be, and that's really not it. Right? I mean, we've got USDA financing out there with no down payment. We can ask seller for, now it's not always going to happen, right? Each client's going to be a little bit different, but you can ask the seller to cover closing cost expense.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many options out there to help put some buyers at ease that they're not ready, but they really can do it, right? That's why we talked about credit supplements and no credit score borrowers and people that use cash their entire life. I mean, I've got people knocking on 50 years old that have never established credit. And and it's crazy to think about it because in our world today, credit is so important to do anything.
Absolutely.
Right? Autos, homes, you name it, just to function and live your daily life, credit's important. And we can't punish those borrowers. That's why I brought out that video. It's like, listen, they've been responsible their whole life. They're using cash. Why not use alternative credit? And someone shouted out, sounds like subprime. It's like, you are nuts. That is not subprime.
Not at all.
Not at all. So you'd have to live in the pre-2008 era to really know what subprime is with those ninjas and those Ninas.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to get off my soapbox on that one. But anyways, let's talk about agents, right? So what do you think agents need to know about you specifically or our company specifically to help put their mind at ease? Like, I've never dealt with them before, and I want to stay in my comfort zone.
I think like agents are looking for accountability and availability. Okay, so say for instance someone has an open house. All right. Buyer comes in, say, I don't have a pre-approval letter or whatnot.
Yeah.
And you and I both know how this works. Availability is everything. Agent calls you up, say Adam, Chad, or whatnot. I need a pre-approval letter. I'm showing a buyer house today. You give it to them. They go in. I mean, I've done that 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah.
It's available.
Saturdays, Sundays.
Yeah,
and the thing is, guys,
absolutely.
we may not always be available, but I can guarantee you one thing. As soon as I'm home in front of a computer, I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I had a phone call from an agent. I was at a ball game. And I sent her a text back. I was like, hey, as soon as I get home, it'll be around 7 o'clock. I'll get it to you. Boom.
That's it.
There it was.
That's all it is. That's all it is. They just want to know that you are going to work on it. You're going to keep your word.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Because I've had so many instances where there was a client that contacted their agent on Saturday night, and I've gotten these calls, I can't tell you how many times over my last 12 years. And it's 8 o'clock at night, and they're like, hey, are you available to take a pre-approval call? And it's like, well, I'm at home. Yep, let's do it.
Definitely.
And I can't say my wife's a big fan of it, but she gets it. She knows. And she knows that's why we do so much business, is because we are, or try to be, as available as humanly possible to these borrowers. Because the thing is that agent needs it, right? That's it. End of story. They're available. The agent's available when the buyer's available.
Right.
That's it. And we have to be available when the agent's available.
Sure.
And that's it, right?
You just think about how many offers are put in on homes. Someone comes in without a pre-approval letter, they go to the end of the line.
Yeah. Right.
See, and then also, I know we've talked about it before, but, some buyers, if you feel comfortable working with a corporate bank, fine, so be it. But I've asked agents and buyers before, hey, that loan officer at that corporate bank, ask them for their cell phone number like you and I give ours out.
Yep.
Or, hey, you know what? I'm going to call you on a Saturday. Can I call you Saturday at 7 o'clock? What's their response?
Right.
What do you think?
It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Well, the thing is about, corporate banks and corporate companies, they restrict access.
Right.
Unless you're at the office, right? Which I get for security purposes. I completely understand, but that's why we use a cloud-based secured system.
Right.
And so we can access it at home if we need to, right? And that makes us available, where banks, it's on shutdown.
86.
Correct. So that's all I had this week. So I want to talk about your real estate story here shortly, because you got a good one.
Absolutely.
But to answer some questions that were on TikTok this past week, someone wanted to get some more information about using savings patterns, right? And you had mentioned there were some banks talking about it too. And it's just not talked about enough. So we had talked about people with thin credit, all right? Thin credit. So if I needed you to have 3 lines of credit for 12 months to make this loan go, and you only had 2, and we're trying to create other lines, maybe you don't have a rent reference, maybe you don't have car insurance in your name, you're on a family plan or something like that, and we need to dig deep savings pattern is one of those things that we can dig deep on. But there are two different sets of guidelines. Now, usually USDA and FHA follow the exact same. They don't in this case. So FHA states that you have to have a documented, which I mentioned, 12 months of bank statements is what we're going to collect to show that the balance is continually increasing and you are contributing at least quarterly. At least quarterly. They don't put a dollar amount. Okay?
Right.
Easy peasy. That's for FHA financing. And so that'll be your third line of credit, whatever. Okay? USDA has taken a little different stance. So they want that same savings pattern, but to use it as an alternative line of credit, you have to have at least 3 months of your principal and interest, taxes, and insurance saved up.
Right,
so if your payment is $1,000, so there's basically a limitation or a minimum amount that you have to have saved, where FHA doesn't have to have the minimum amount. They just want to show that you've been saving for 12 months consistently. Again, we're not withdrawing money out of there or anything like that. It needs to continually show it's going up. USDA has that same guideline. It has to continually go up for 12 months, but you have to have a specific amount in there. So
Sure.
if your house payment is $1,000 a month, your savings in there has to accumulate to $3,000. That's
Right.
3 months of reserves. So that's the caveat to USDA. So we were just looking that up again this morning with our underwriting staff. So I wanted to throw that out there. So hopefully that answers your question out there on TikTok. And we don't get a bunch more of this is BS, this is stupid. Why would you do that? It's just an option for buyers that might have some thin credit. So
it's not anywhere near subprime or whomever
it's not
stated that.
subprime.
I mean, subprime for anyone.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Let's
I
go.
mean, that was like on an application. You don't need to list employment or income. How can you buy a house by not listing employment
Correct.
or income?
Yeah.
You know, that's
Right.
all stated stated income, stated assets. Well, I have $100,000 in an account.
Right.
I'm stating it.
Yeah.
How's that going to work out for a buyer?
And I'm not saying back pre-2008, and by the way, this company did not participate in subprime lending, or we wouldn't be here.
Right.
We would have went under with 1,000 other companies that went under, including title companies and warehouse banks and all that stuff that got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. But, Nina loans, I mean, good Lord, lenders were somewhat irresponsible, but buyers were also irresponsible in that case. Did they ask enough questions? Probably not. Did they understand what they're signing? Not always. But you know what? If I'm borrowing money, I'm asking questions.
Yeah, you know what you're getting into.
Right? There were some sleazebag lenders out there. I have zero doubt about that. So there is some responsibility that goes on the lending side. But yeah, let's talk Nina. So no income, no assets.
It's crazy.
Ninja, no income, no job, no assets. Right? Meaning it's not saying that you don't have a job. It's just saying they're not verifying it.
Right.
So you just tell me what it is. I'll put it on the application. We're going to go to closing 48 hours.
Sure.
I mean, I know people that worked at Countrywide. Yes, I name drop. And it's okay to name it because they're out of business. But they were putting people's information on a napkin. Name, social, date of birth, where you live. That's it. Send it in. I don't even think it was signed.
No.
They're closing in 3 days. That's subprime, to answer your question out there. That's nuts. This is not the case. So,
well, what's the subprime? I mean, they were getting, back then it was a GFE, good faith estimate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, nonetheless, I mean, realistically, you didn't have to send those out within 3 days, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
Years ago.
It's been, I don't know, the TRID came out, what, 15, 14?
I think so.
16? I don't
Something
know.
like that.
It's been almost a decade.
But, no, I mean, you send out all these disclosures. People, like you said, people didn't know what they were looking at.
Nope, had no idea. Didn't ask any questions. Maybe they were embarrassed to ask. I don't know. ARM products were popular.
Well, yeah, and those teaser rates, that's how people got in trouble with all those.
Yeah. I mean, for homework, guys, watch The Big Short. Watch The Big Short.
Absolutely.
Great movie. All right, check that out. Very entertaining, and it kind of gives you a little background of what was going on during that time.
Right.
I mean, there was a loan officer gloating, basically saying, well, I can put you in a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. I make $2,000, but if I put them in this crazy adjustable, I'll make $10,000 on this thing. That's some of the sleazebag lenders that were out there. So,
definitely.
Very good. So, all right, Chad. Funny real estate story. What you got for me?
So, when it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago, I decided, hey, got out of lending for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Being that I was familiar with it, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and get my realtor's license.
Right.
So I went out and got it, did everything at Hondros, did the testing and whatnot. So oddly enough, 2 months went by, and I'm like, man, I'm not sure if I still want to do this. So nonetheless, I ended up getting it, and I was going to sign with the broker, but then it was like, I don't know if I want to do it.
Right.
It's a hard job.
Oh yeah,
you better
absolutely.
Kudos to any agent out there. You're driving people around all day long, and sometimes it's a shot in the dark. Hey, are they going to like this house or not? I mean, I know agents that I work with, they've shown 7 or 8 houses in one day.
Yeah.
And,
and no dice,
you got
no offer,
exactly.
no anything. You just don't know.
Yeah. So I went out and, like I said, I obtained my realtor's license. And honestly, I'll be the only person you ever meet with someone who has a realtor's license. Granted, it's an escrow right now, but nonetheless, I've never shown a house, talked about anyone buying a house, never did any of that. So Shelly would, she'll be like, what the hell would you do that for? I don't know.
Educational purposes.
It was a pipe dream at the time, but then I was like, and that's a good thing about it, Adam, is I'm familiar with both sides.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I still stay in my own lane.
Yeah.
Realtors in your contracts, that's all on you. I stay in my own lane. It's none of my, that's your forte. That's what you're professional about. I'm not into that.
We just read them.
Yep, exactly.
Yep, and then we'll tell you what you messed up. We're Monday morning quarterbacking those contracts. Exactly. It's like, what are you doing on this? This isn't even accepted.
Yeah.
But very good, very good. And yeah, shout out. I mean, that's why we talked about the NAR settlement so much on this podcast and the industry as a whole. Is a lot of people are upset about paying a buyer's agent or what have you. We're not going to get into it too deep today, but they have no idea. They have no idea. A buyer's agent's job is extremely difficult.
Oh, sure.
You're dealing with emotional people. Some are crazy. Some aren't. They'll ghost you. You show them 30 homes, and then they go buy a FSBO, didn't tell you about it, right? So you're doing all this work possibly for zero pay.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's, I got this easy client. They found a house. We put an offer in. It got accepted. One and done.
Sure.
That happens sometimes, but it's very rare. Very rare.
And, I get it because, a house is your largest investment you're going to make. And some of them are like, their forever home. You want to raise a family.
Yep.
Or whatever it might be. And I mean, you want to be rock solid on it. And your agent's going to give you good, kind, solid advice. Hey, this is what you're looking for. The caveat is, if there is one, you and I give the pre-approval letter, dollar amount or whatnot. So, we give it off to the agent. They go from there.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. I hope that was educational, informational. I hope you enjoyed Chad being on the show. That's all we're going to have for you this week. Remember to subscribe on YouTube. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'll see you all next week.